Out of the 9 characters shown in the Travail preview trailer, 2 of them stand out among the rest, being the ones shown for the Hydra region of Fontaine. Although the trailer itself doesn't mention it, the description of the video notes their names to be Lyney and Lynette. They're interesting because we know the trailer shows character gacha splash arts based off DeLuca and Ningguang's, so that means these 2 characters likely share a splash art. That might not mean much to some people, but with how characters are going to continuously become more complex as time goes on, I think it's probable that Lyney and Lynette could be 2 characters in one. I feel that the 2 being a single playable character would be quite fitting, and not just because of their splash art. Just from a quick glance, it's pretty easy to identify that their overall theme is a magician and his assistant. Lyney has a top hat and the classic magician colors of red, black, and white. Also, the spotlight in the background suggests that they are performers. This all fits in with the common trope in performative magic of having a male magician with a female assistant. Lyney and Lynette have very similar names, but they also seem to be intrinsically connected through their visual elements. As we know from MiHoYo's developer insights, things like colors and minor details all have some kind of significance to them. The 2 share similar eye and hair colors, they both have a mark on their cheek, and their bows and capes are the same except for their colors. These all point towards the characters being true counterparts, whereas other counterparts in the game have much more subtle visual connections. And as a last stretch analysis, the fact that Lynette has prominent cat ears and a tail while Lyney doesn't could point towards Lyney being somewhat of an owner or caretaker in the relationship, further suggested by the fact that he has a much more confident expression on his face. But my final reason that I think Lyney and Lynette will be a single character is the most important one, and that reason is selling true counterparts separately under the gacha model is considered illegal in Japan. In 2012, Japan's Consumer Affairs Agency declared Kompu Gacha to be a violation of law. Kompu comes from the conversion of the English word complete to Japanese phonetics. This describes the practice of requiring consumers to roll multiple different items from a gacha in order to combine them to unlock a single grand prize. Think Exodia from Yu-Gi-Oh! Each of his parts are underwhelming on their own, but if you are able to gather all of them, you get a pretty amazing reward. Kompu Gacha was recognized as unethical because of how predatory it is towards the customer. By promoting something so desirable yet exclusive, you are encouraging them to spend lots of money in hopes of collecting pieces. Though if they don't manage to get the full set, their money is essentially wasted. Seeing as how Japan is a big market for Genshin, I don't think they would even consider testing the limits there. But if you are already aware of this law, you might know that there are several different ways to work around it, one of which is actually already in Genshin Impact. You probably already know that Genshin has signature weapons. These weapons not only match a character's aesthetic, but their stats and effects are very clearly meant to complement the abilities of one particular character. But although the character and weapon can be seen as counterparts, and they are both obtained through gacha, they do not count as Kompu Gacha because both can function well independently of each other. Hu Tao can work using any polearm, and other polearm users can still greatly benefit from using the Staff of Homa. If Lyney and Lynette were to be handled this way though, where they are not essential to each other, I think it could possibly detract from the synergy that the 2 have together and the unique mechanics they could have. Another way to avoid violating the Kompu Gacha law is to make one of the 2 counterparts obtainable for free. MiHoYo actually implemented this in their other game, Honkai Impact 3rd, with the free-to-play A-rank Lilia and the S-rank gacha obtainable Rosalia. This method is definitely a strong possibility for Lyney and Lynette, but here's why I think having them effectively be a single character would make for much more interesting gameplay. The concept of a 2-in-1 character is pretty straightforward. Whereas typically you control a single character at a time, with a 2-in-1 you have access to 2 characters at the same time. This usually lends itself very well to methodical and technical gameplay, something which not many Genshin characters explore. Some great examples come from Super Smash Bros. Because this game demonstrates how this concept can be executed in many different ways. The Ice Climbers, Popo and Nana, are independent in that the player directly controls Popo while Nana is controlled by an AI that is influenced by the player's inputs. Their percentage only reflects Popo's damage, and Nana can be KO'd without the loss of a stock. The Ice Climbers also demonstrate the idea that teamwork is superior, with most of their specials being much more useful when both are alive. Highly skilled players can best take advantage of the 2-in-1 style by utilizing setups for desyncs, leading to absolutely insane combos. Another character that takes a wildly different approach to the formula is Rosalina and Luma. I would describe their relationship as a puppet master and puppet rather than partners. Not just because Luma can be KO'd and will respawn after a period of time, but because the player still has direct control over them. Rosalina's neutral special can send out Luma and call them back on command. Still though, they attack at the same time and can play off of each other. Lastly, we have Smash Ultimate's most recent DLC character, Pyra and Mithra. Using the down special, you can switch between them. they both have situations where one is better than the other, encouraging the use of both, but they don't necessarily play off of each other in the same way the previous characters do. So now I'm going to give 3 examples of ways I feel that Lyney and Lynette could be implemented as a 2-in-1 character. In all of them, they will be the first characters to share the power of a single vision, though I don't have any specific element in mind. I'm not going to go through every part of their hypothetical kit, just their core mechanics that would make them unique. First, we have one where you control Lyney and an AI controls Lynette. Lynette would be influenced by your own movement, attacks, and abilities, but would not always have to be directly controlled. However, this is my least favorite because using Lynette would feel more like an assist call rather than actually using 2 characters. Also, I feel like this concept would work better for a character that has a pet since it doesn't take advantage of the fact that you have 2 fully realized human characters. My second design focuses on making Lyney a puppeteer style character. Moving around would control Lyney, but Lynette would appear as a part of combat. This approach can go in 2 different directions for weapons. Either give Lynette a melee weapon and have her appear to do basic attack strings, or give Lyney a ranged weapon like a bow or catalyst and have Lynette appear doing her own thing during attacks and abilities. I like the first one more because it would make Lynette more involved in the overall kit. This would also make the pair the first ranged melee character in a way, since Lynette would presumably intercept incoming damage in some way. To make this not super overpowered, I'll say that any damage Lynette takes is still dealt to Lyney, but he just won't take any knockback. This overall I would consider to be a bit more realistic because it's not overly complicated, but it still doesn't do a particularly good job of taking advantage of the 2-in-1 style. That brings us to my third and final concept, which is much more complex, but not too over the top I don't think. Let's say Lyney is the default character, but activating the elemental skill switches to Lynette while doing an attack. Recasting switches back with another attack. To differentiate from how characters normally switch with one another, this ability will have no cooldown, but the activation attack will. Unlike other skills in this game which activate stances, both characters will have their strengths and weaknesses to encourage constant switching. Let's say for example, Lyney is good at doing sustained damage and support, while Lynette is better at doing short bursts of damage. Both characters still appear when doing attacks and elemental bursts, but the properties are different based on who the active character is. The character health is also split between the two, and when one dies, the other has their abilities disabled. As long as the other is alive, they will resurrect after a period of time, but this would encourage players to be careful about keeping each character alive to take full advantage of their kits. Overall, there are pretty much an infinite amount of ways to go about designing gameplay for Lyney and Lynette, some of which in my opinion are much cooler than others. Unfortunately though, it seems I will have to wait quite a bit of time to see if my predictions are going to have any kind of accuracy or not, considering that the Fontaine chapter of the Archon questline probably won't come out for at least a year. I mean, it's been 7 months now and we are still a bit of a ways off from getting everything Inazuma will have to offer. But either way, making this video got me unnecessarily hyped up for their release, and I also look forward just in general to new character concepts that will be coming to the game in the future. But that's all I have for this video. Let me know what you think about having a 2-in-1 character in Genshin, and as always, thank you for watching.